All right, so we're going to talk about what a matriarchy is. It's a very often debated subject. But a matriarchy at its base is a social system in which women occupy primary positions of authority political, economic, ritual, or familial, and where social organization, inheritance, or moral authority is centered on maternal lines. Anthropologists distinguish strictly female authority from related arrangements such as matrilineal, which is descent through the mother, matrilocal, where the residence is within the wife's family, or matrifocal, households organized around mothers. In practice, most societies described as matriarchal combine several of these features rather than fitting a simple single model. Now, the ways in which matriarchal organization contrast with patriarchal organization is very interesting. Often in matriarchal systems, descent and inheritance flow through the mother's line. Children belong to the mother's clan, ancestral houses and lands are often held by women, and senior women commonly manage household resources. In patriarchal systems, descent and inheritance typically flow through the father's line, and household authority is concentrated in male heads of household. Now, political and ritual authority in matriarchal and matrilineal societies may institutionalize female political roles, for example, clan mothers or queen mothers, and assign women exclusive ritual functions that legitimize leaders. Patriarchies concentrate political and ritual authority in male offices and male dominated institutions. Also, when property and lineage assets are controlled through maternal lines, women hold significant economic leverage that shapes social decision making. In patriarchal societies, male control of property and inheritance reinforces male dominance across public and private life. Matriarchal power is often relational and consensus based, exercised through kinship networks and elder councils. This is why you'll hear a lot of people saying either that matriarchy is a web instead of a hierarchy, or that matriarchy is a circle, which centers the most vulnerable. Both of these, I think, are apt descriptions for different reasons. But patriarchal power tends to be hierarchical and positional, enforced through legal codes, religious doctrine, and centralized offices. So, feminist sociologists treat patriarchy and matriarchy as socially constructed systems that reveal how gender and power are organized rather than as biologically determined facts. Key interpretations from this lens include the idea that patriarchy is structural. Patriarchy is analyzed as an institutional system embedded in law, economy, religion, and culture that produces and reproduces male privilege. Matriarchy is sort of an analytical corrective to this. Matrilineal and matrifocal societies are used to challenge the assumption that male dominance is universal. They show alternate arrangements for organizing kinship, property, and authority. Now, here I must caution against the I can't say that word, romanticization that I often hear of matriarchal societies. A lot of scholars emphasize that many societies labeled matriarchal are actually matrilineal or matrifocal and may not involve female domination. Feminist analysis, therefore, focuses on how power is organized rather than simply who holds titles. In other words, cooperative versus coercive power. Colonial and intersectional critiques also apply. Feminist scholars highlight how colonialism and missionary activity often imposed patriarchal norms on indigenous societies that previously had more balanced or female-centered institutions. Now, there are quite a few examples from the real world of how power works within matriarchal type societies. The Mosuo in southwest China have a matrifocal household authority and walking marriages. They live around Lugu Lake and nearby areas. They are widely described as matrilineal and matrifocal. Large extended households are led by senior women. Children remain in the mother's home and belong to her lineage. The Masuo practice a form of non marital partnership, often called walking marriage, in which men visit partners at night but remain members of their mother's household. Men do not typically transfer property to wives or establish male headed nuclear households. Elder women manage property and household decisions, producing a domestic order organized around maternal kin rather than a male head of household model. The Akan of Ghana and the Ivory Coast institutionalized female political authority. They had queen mothers. Among Akan peoples, matrilineal descent determines succession and inheritance. The queen mother is a formal office. Queen mothers advise and nominate chiefs, influence succession, and act as institutional checks on male rulers. God, that seems like a really good idea right now. Anyway, their authority is embedded in the political system rather than confined to the domestic sphere, giving women a recognized role in governance and community decision making. The Iroquois of northeastern North America had clan mothers and political legitimacy. Their societies are matrilineal. Clan mothers historically selected, advised, and could depose chiefs. Land and longhouse membership flowed through the female line, and clan mothers played a central role in maintaining social continuity, ceremonies, and political accountability. Male chiefs exercised authority with the mandate and counsel of women, producing a governance model where female institutional power constrained and shaped male leadership. I think we really need that. Among the Bribri of Costa Rica, matrilineal inheritance and female ritual authority are very important. They transmit land and clan identity through women. Certain sacred rituals and spiritual roles are reserved for women. Female custodianship of ritual knowledge and land places women at the center of both economic and spiritual life, shaping community norms and resource control in ways that contrast with male-dominated religious hierarchies. Even in Minoan Crete during the Bronze Age, there is debated archaeological evidence for female-centered religion and social roles. Archaeological evidence from Bronze Age Crete, prominent goddess imagery, female ritual figurines, and palace iconography, has led some scholars to propose that Minoan society was less militarized and more gender balanced, perhaps with elevated female ritual status. Other scholars caution that the evidence is ambiguous and does not prove a politically dominant matriarchy. The Minoan case remains an important but contested example of debates about pre-patriarchal social forms, and there are also many of these about, the previous societies even earlier than Minoan Crete. And if you want to read about a little bit more about some of these and a couple more examples that I didn't list here, you can always check out my Substack. I'm going to link it in it's free, and I'm going to link it in the description. But when you talk about how matriarchal power operates in practice, matriarchal systems often derive legitimacy from maternal lineage, ritual roles, and elder councils. For example, clan mothers or queen mothers, while patriarchies derive legitimacy from male lineage, legal codes, and centralized male offices. Decision-making processes for these groups are different as well. Matriarchal or matrilineal societies frequently use consensus, kinship negotiations, and elder councils to make community decisions. Patriarchal systems more rely on hierarchical top-down authority and codified legal mechanisms. In addition, when land and ancestral houses pass through women, economic bargaining power shifts. Women can control household resources, influence marriage patterns, and shape long term community continuity. In patriarchy, male property control reinforces male dominance across public life. Matriarchal authority is often relational, embedded in kin obligations, ritual status, and elder networks, whereas patriarchal authority is often positional, tied to formal office, rank, and legal privilege. This difference changes how conflict is resolved, how leaders are held accountable, and how social continuity is maintained. Now, there are several reasons why these societies that we've talked about matter for feminist theory and Western assumptions. First of all, they disprove the inevitability of the patriarchy. The existence of matrilineal and matrifocal societies shows that male dominance is not a universal human default. It's not the natural way. Alternative gendered power arrangements are historically and ethnographically real, and they have existed throughout time and places. These societies expand models of equality. Female centered property and political roles demonstrate alternative pathways to social stability that do not rely on male domination, suggesting that gender equality can be organized around different cultural logics. They also complicate binary thinking. Many such societies organize gender through complementary or shared authority rather than simple role reversal. Feminist scholars use these cases to argue that empowerment need not mimic Western individualist or hierarchical models. And these societies also reveal colonial disruption. Studying matrilineal and matrifocal systems also exposes how colonial and missionary interventions often replaced indigenous gender systems with patriarchal norms, reshaping political life and economic life. Gendered power is, at its base, culturally constructed. Matrilineal and matrifocal societies demonstrate that social organization around matrilineal or maternal lines is viable and historically present. They demonstrate that power can be relational and consensus based. Many matriarchal arrangements emphasize kinship networks, elder councils, and ritual legitimacy rather than coercive hierarchy. But we must be precise with our comparisons. Matriarchy is often used loosely. Careful analysis distinguishes matrilineal, matrifocal, and genuinely female dominated systems and focuses on how authority is exercised.